Activate party mode.
A-firm, party mode engaged.
Hello and welcome to Party Mode, the F1 podcast with no limits. I'm Jethro Bovingdon and I am joined by my good friends Charlie Curtis and Matthew Collins, unless, of course, they might be taking a tea break. Today we are going to be talking Miami GP, the youngest driver ever to grab a pole position, Lego races, radio comedy gold, gritty dancing, and pretty much total domination by McLaren. So, boys, it really does look like Oscar versus Lando for the title, but despite that, it was a really great weekend of action, starting with that historic pole position by Kimi for the sprint race.
I'm so glad he got it. He's been on it all year. He's been so consistent all year. And so that was fun to watch.
I was just happy, because last week we did the Zaddy with his dad, and I didn't anticipate this happening this weekend. I was like, if this kid sweeps this weekend, the odds of us picking the Zaddy just before is going to be incredible. And it made me more disappointed when he didn't capitalize on both of them. And I felt so sad for the kid. He is so cute. He's the cutest driver that we have right now. My God.
He's 18, isn't he? But he's a young 18. So you're right. He's not, because when we, I said it once before, but when we see young sports people, we're used to seeing it in football or whatever, and they're big guys. They look older than their years mostly, but he literally looks like he could be friends with one of my kids. It's hilarious. Yeah. And he's sticking it on pole.
He doesn't look the same age as LeBron when he was in high school.
Yeah, no, he did so well because George has been so good all year, but it looked like it was going to be tough for Kimi, even though he was doing really, really well. He couldn't quite get on that pace, but he pretty much had him covered, didn't he? Since the first practice, he looked like he was going to be the Mercedes driver. But I think the pole was still pretty out of the blue, wasn't it? The shock on the commentator's voice was hilarious when he came over the line.
And isn't it his first time driving this track too? It's crazy for him to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, first time here. Youngest on pole. I know it's a sprint pole, but let's say a pole of any format by over 2 years, I think. It was Vettel before, wasn't it? So, yeah, amazing. And then it didn't really work out for him in the sprint, but he's learning, isn't he? And you could tell he was, because that turn one, it was always going to be that way. He was always going to, once he'd lost that bit from the launch, he was never going to win that corner, so he probably should have just bailed and sat there in second for a bit.
And then of course he got screwed during the pit stop when Max took him out, unsafe release. And what I didn't catch real time, but they showed it on the replay, was he then missed his whole pit stop.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like he just got hit and there was that damage and all of that, but he had to just bypass his pit stop. And then he's out on those tires that weren't the right tires.
And then I had to come right back in again. So frustrating.
Yeah, it shows good presence of mind, to be honest, because he could have just carried on trying to get in. But if he'd have spun round, there's a lot of bodies there to hit. And I know they're doing, 80 Ks, but it's quick enough if you're being hit by a big chunk of carbon fiber and metal, basically. Yeah, he did good. The sprint was actually fantastic, wasn't it? With the weather coming in, it was the weather, starting on the intermediate and then going to the dries. It was cool, and I guess it was the part of the weekend where Oscar felt hard done by, which would probably switch round at a later date. But it's the most despondent I've seen him look. He looked really pissed, didn't he?
He did not look happy. It was his. And then again, second year in a row, Lando getting lucky with the safety car and taking full advantage of that. And yeah, it seemed like the weekend was going to go in Lando's favor after the sprint.
It did. It was in some ways nice to see, because I think this weekend proved maybe more than anything that the McLarens are going to be pretty unstoppable. So even with Max pulling out his heroics, when it comes to the races, I think McLaren have got it. So it would be a shame if one was completely dominant, because then we'd sort of pretty know what was going to happen for the whole season. But they're still switching around. Oscar does look solid. But Lando's still got those flashes where he looks so quick. And I don't know about you, when he pitted, I know it all worked out because Alonso got tipped round and there was the safety car and everything, but he was like 20 seconds in the lead with 4 laps to go or 3 laps to go. And I was like, just stay out, because if you go in, you are 100% going to come out in second or third. If you stay out, you got a chance. And I was like, they've got to take 5 or 6 seconds, maybe more, a lap out of Lando and get past him in 4 laps. I thought he should have stayed anyway. I mean, it worked out for him, so it was no problem. But
I know it's always interesting, but then sometimes they'll say that the timing difference on new tires versus old, sometimes it's like up there 5-6 seconds.
yeah, I guess
It's always it's a gamble. Yeah,
It's a gamble. But I mean, it worked out. So basically, Alonso got tipped round, didn't he? Safety car came out. Lewis had made an early stop and given Ferrari at least one glimmer of something good from the weekend, and ended up third. But it was all about McLaren, really. But then we get to quali, and as usual, it's just not McLaren in the mix, and Max pulls out yet another insanely magical lap. It was pretty spectacular to watch.
It's crazy, especially once you saw his pace in the race. It made his qualifying lap all that more incredible.
I thought I had the times written down, but it was what, 0.0065 of a second between Max and Lando, and then another 0.0002 back to, it was just insane. Like the gaps are so intense and so tiny. It's no wonder that these little mistakes are creeping in.
It always blows my mind too when I watch qualifying in the race. Like they're so much faster in the race. I know that's because we're fresh tires, less fuel, all that stuff. But then it's like, to judge your pace in the race to be the right pace, but you could go faster, but you're saving your tires, and to judge what that specific pace is.
And it's
I think
2 seconds.
And
it's not like they're going a minute slower. They're going 2 seconds slower to save here and there. And that it is crazy.
I wish they would actually delve into that a bit more, though, because they talk about, like, Oscar, it's been a long journey to get his tire management up. But what are the drivers actually doing? Because it can't just be a matter of not driving very fast, because they're still pushing. You can see the body language of the car. They're going pretty quick, but they've got an extra 100 kilos of fuel or whatever on board. I'd love to know how you become a master of that tire preservation in a sort of Lewis way, or Lando's really good at it. Max is mega at it. What are they actually doing? Because it seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because you've got 20 other guys around you all trying to overtake you, and yet you're thinking about the long game the whole time whilst trying to go quick. It would be cool to have a Brundle VT, just 5 minutes on tire management, what it actually means, and showing what those guys are doing, because it's a crazy subject, really. I want to talk Brundle for 1 minute, because one of my favorite parts, I love Brundle, but his grid walk for this was a bit of a nightmare. It was one of those ones where there was just no one around, etc. But did you see the boxer he spoke to, Conor Ben?
No.
Okay. So he went up to, when I was a kid, there was a massive couple of fights I think they were fighting for super middleweight division, 2 Brits.
Because I've been following that whole thing.
Yeah. So Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank, right? Nigel Benn's he's like a geezer, a London geezer, talks like a London dude from the streets, tough guy, like real tough guy. And then Chris Eubank, who is this crazy character, talks like a sort of blue-blooded,
so weird,
like a blue-blooded English gentleman, and they were just a clash of personality, clash of style. Ben was a scrapper, Eubank was like a real technical boxer, and they had 2 fights, one of which was just an absolute classic, which Eubank won. Actually, I think he won them both. But so when I was a kid, these were like 2 of the biggest fights in British boxing history. Amazing, captured everyone's imagination. And then last weekend, their sons fought. So like literally.
And it was their second fight, but the first fight, the Ben kid had tested for performance enhancing drugs or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So it was cancelled. And they had a fight. Anyway, the long and the short of it is Chris Eubank Jr. won the fight. Okay, so he won it on, I think it was a points decision. But Martin went up to Conor Benn, the other kid who was there, the other guy who was there, and congratulated him on his victory, not once but twice during the interview. And even though Conor Benn, after the first congratulations, said, yeah, it was a great fight, unfortunately, I didn't get the W, like, he told Martin, I didn't win the fight, but Martin still congratulated him again at the end of the interview, which was just, I was like, this is brilliant. This is just so good. It was a classic Martin. I love him. I think he's the best. But that moment, I was like, oh man, someone in his ear should be shouting, no, he didn't win. He didn't
win. He has no shame though. He calls people the wrong name and he doesn't care and he acknowledges it next time. You know, he's just out there doing what he can. He's grinding out there.
And he even went up to, he got Lisa from White Lotus. He got Sir Jackie again to get him an interview, which was incredible. Like, he's just using Sir Jackie in all these scenarios to get him an interview. It's perfect.
I don't know the Lisa girl. Who is she?
She is, like, technically, I think she's the most followed person on Instagram. She's a Thai. She's like a Thai pop star, like a K-pop star, but she's Thai, and she was in the most recent season of White Lotus.
She's involved with the F1 soundtrack. Is that right? There was a whole load of stuff about the F1 movie soundtrack. I think that's what it was all about.
Maybe makes sense. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, because what's his name was there, Bruckenheimer, and like various other artists from this release. So they're trying to big that up. But yeah, that was a bit awkward as well. She was like, she sort of wanted to talk to him, didn't want to talk to him. Jackie Stewart got involved. It was brilliant. Okay, we should probably talk about the race, which was won by Oscar, Lando second, George third. But the real key moment came in the first two corners, really.
Yeah.
Where
it's
Lando
every race for the last three races is just the first two corners. It's crazy. It's so fun.
And to me, it's like, even though I think it's highly unlikely Max wins this championship, he is going to decide who wins this championship, isn't he? He is the main protagonist in this show, even though he's not quite in the fight, because he's always going to be first, second, or third on the grid. It seems like he's just got that ability to pull those laps out. And then it's a matter of, what do you do with him? And Lando decided to race him rather than just follow him for a bit, which probably was a mistake.
Yeah, and it turned out to be a mistake because McLaren clearly had the pace, both of those cars. And yeah, sit back, give him that first turn, give him the lead for 10 laps and wear him down. And that's, I get it was because Oscar started in fourth. He was kind of forced to sit back and wait, but he took full advantage and that he was in that position where now he could just chip away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I get why Lando just went for it. He sort of had no choice because Max had run wide and it put him where he was and there wasn't a huge amount he could do, but there was only ever going to be one outcome, really, wasn't there? And you just saw him go backwards and you're like, it's little things like this that could really make a difference in the show. And they did. Like, I think if Lando just filed in second, like you say, they were so much quicker. He would have got him sooner or later. And he looked quicker than Oscar in the race when they actually had that head to head in the last sort of stint. So he lost out again. And it's little things like that that could cost him.
And I guess he had nowhere to go, but you also, I just feel like you plan for that at the beginning. Like that's part of your strategy. Like we're going to give up that position. We're going to let Max have it. We're not going to race him till lap 3 or lap 4 because yeah, eventually he got into where he had nowhere to go. He got into that situation, but like you said, there's only going to be one outcome in these things. And Max is not giving up anything. And because they're dominating and they're so much faster, there's just no reward worth that risk, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think now Max probably in his head is like, I'm not going to win this title. So he can go for broke even more than usual because he knows he's in a fight with his teammate. So if Lando takes a risk, it's gonna promote Oscar. So yeah, they're gonna have to do something about this. But yeah, he must be pleased of where he got back to, but gutted that he let it go. And now Oscar's won 3 in a row, right? He's won 3 in a row, and he's won 6 in total, which so more than Norris now. And he's, he's a robot. He's a robot who can't dance, but he's a robot.
I think it's the first time McLaren's done that since 1997. So it's like, it's crazy. But then what I also wonder when you say like Lando was faster at the end, he was a faster car. I always wonder in that scenario, though, I was watching the timing and how he's getting closer. And I'm like, yeah, everyone's saying that Lando's getting closer to him and he's faster. But like, is Oscar, he knows what's going on. He knows he's coming up. He's probably just harvesting his energy. And he's got like 100% ERS sitting in that car waiting for him to kind of get there. And if he gets there, he's got full energy where probably Lando's using up that energy to catch up to him.
Yeah, I think Lando was quicker, but I think you're right. And as soon as it got to 4 seconds, it just stayed there, basically. It wasn't budging after that point. And I think, did Lando run wide at one point? So that was game over anyway. But yeah, we need to see a real head-to-head between those two. I mean, Zach Brown has been saying, hasn't he, this weekend,
he wanted
he's expecting them to crash, and he's like, let's just get it over with, you know.
Which I appreciate. I like that. I like that approach of like, hey, we've got 2 great drivers. We have a great car this year. Let's let them race. I love that.
It was kind of funny, and this will go probably to the next thing we're going to talk about here, but I saw an interview with Lewis, and he was talking about when he was trying to get past Leclerc. And what I found interesting that he said about that, he's like, I just wanted to get past Leclerc so we could catch up to the McLarens. And I'm like, wait, what? You think you're going to pass Leclerc and catch the McLarens? They're 30 seconds ahead of you. Like, I don't know what in his head he thought he was going to catch the McLarens. Like, yeah, you might have caught Antonelli, and that's it. But you're not catching any McLaren at that point. I don't know why he had that in his head.
Yeah, he was having a rough race. But he did well in the sprint, got on the podium, which was great. And then same kind of thing we saw last sprint weekend in
China,
just fell off in China. Yeah, fell off during the race.
But I have to say, it's one of those things. If you look at the bald figures, right? So he qualified 12th. I think Leclerc was 8th. But if you look at that Q2 session, they were like half a tenth apart, I think. And Lewis didn't use new tyres. So actually, and then the race pace was pretty similar. So I think he actually took a little bit of a step maybe this weekend and was a little bit better. But I tell you what, though, he genuinely had me in stitches on the radio. I have not laughed that much from a radio message when he said, when they gave him the update on sites and he said, do you want me to let him past it? I literally was laughing for about 10 minutes. It was so good.
It
was so snappy. What else did he say about tea? He was like, why don't you make yourself a cup of tea?
Yeah, because he was like, listen, this is crazy. I'm burning up my tires. Just get him to move me over. And they're like, we'll come back to you. And he's like, yeah, have a cup of tea while you're there. You know, have a tea break while you're there. In all the years I watched him, I think the most shitty he's been with the team. I guess even in the latter time with George, Mercedes was still sort of built around Lewis, the mold of Lewis Hamilton, you know, and he goes to Ferrari and it's built around Leclerc. That's the way it's been for a long time. And it's that they were clearly like grappling with this problem. Like, oh, we can ask Charles to move over. But it was the obvious thing to do. Like, they're on different strategies. Lewis just drove up the back of him and was all over him, let him pass. But by the time they did, he's cooked his tires and all of that advantage is gone.
And they told Leclerc to make him pass, but didn't. Oh, no. What did they do? They told Leclerc to let Hamilton through, but didn't. I forget. They did like something where they didn't tell one of them.
Yeah, no, you're right. Leclerc was bitching that Lewis wasn't letting him back past, and they were like, yeah, really sorry, we're going to try again next lap. But then they went to Anthony Davidson at the Skypad, and he was like, they didn't tell Lewis, they only told him afterwards. So like it's the first time that Ferrari does look a bit ragged and chaotic since Fred's been involved. It feels like they're going back to those Ferrari chaos days.
And that strategy, I mean, I get it. If you're Charles and you're in the lead, you don't want to give up that position. But as a team strategy, you can always give the place back like they did. So why not just, as soon as Lewis is cutting down that gap, it seems like they need to be back there strategizing and like, hey, Lewis is closing the gap. Let's let him by as soon as we can and try to make positions. If you can't, we'll swap back later. But that seemed like a big missed opportunity for them.
I think it was a bad weekend because I think they 100% pissed off Lewis, and he's not a happy bunny. But more than that, the car's just slow. That's the real issue, and it's not improving. That I would say, relative to the competition, they're probably getting slightly worse. And the Williams was quicker. The Williams was 100% quicker. So it's like they're pissing off their drivers. They're not being decisive. Their pit stops are great. That's one thing they're really, really quick at. But the car's just not fast. So they're falling down in pretty much every area. And I'm shocked. I thought Ferrari had a really good shot this year, but they look in a bit of a world of pain, really.
It's not looking good. And like you said, the other teams are getting better. And they're at best staying the same, but it does seem like they're going backwards.
It's got to suck being Ferrari and you're a supercar company and you're getting beat by Honda, a non-supercar company. It always is strange to me when like they have more to lose when their car sucks than if Honda's car sucks. It's just a weird perception thing.
It is, but it's always been like that. You know, Ferrari have always been racing Renault or, you know, Mercedes or whoever. And it's even weirder in the stuff I do, the World Endurance Championship, the when I go and do all the TV stuff. That's even weirder because Mustangs are racing McLaren supercars in the same class and Ferrari supercars and Porsches. So you would think that these big manufacturers be like, or these supercar manufacturers are like, oh man, we're going to lose to a Mustang, or there's a Lexus, like it's a coupe, but it's like a sedan basically that they're racing, and it just doesn't seem to make sense. But yeah, you're right. The perception is that Ferrari should be better than Honda, but it's history is not showing that to be the case at the moment. It's a nightmare. It really is.
Do you think Lewis is regretting his move? How do you think he feels on that? I mean, twofold. One, it's been a disaster at Ferrari, and on the other side, it's been incredible resurgence from Mercedes. So do you think he's regretting it?
What do you think, Matt? My feeling is I suspect overall he felt it was time. And I think he was just at the end with Mercedes. It was like irreparable damage almost. It wasn't a massive falling out. It was just that slow, like Chinese water torture of like, this just isn't going to be my team anymore. It's not working out. So I think overall he's probably okay with it. But I think the realization that like, not only is the car not that good, but the team is not firing on all cylinders, and they're terrified to upset either Charles or Lewis, who are actually big enough and grown up enough to probably say, we don't mind moving over. If that's the order and it's the right thing to do, as long as it's all clear, and then we're going to swap positions later if need be, they're probably okay with it. But this sort of reluctance to just stand up and have the balls to say, this is what we're doing, it must make him think this team's not ready. Even if the car gets good, is the team ready to win a world championship? Because they're making too many mistakes.
I think he's just making so much money.
It's just money.
I don't think he wins. I don't think he wins another driver championship. I really don't. I don't see it happening. So I think it's just a paycheck, really, and he gets a drive.
Yeah, he's not going to do it this year. I guess anything could happen next year with the new car, but I don't know. I feel like maybe he bit off his nose to spite his face with Mercedes, like kind of made enough of a deal about it, how it wasn't working out for him. And then he kind of had to commit. I think you're right. They both seem to be more frustrated with the lack of communication around the strategy than the strategy itself. Like you said, when they're asked to move over, there's no pushback. It's when they're not doing it on time, or they're not communicating back and forth, or their drivers aren't on the same page when they do have a strategy. That seems to be more the frustration, which is almost worse because it's a team thing.
Listen, I'm older than Lewis. You guys are probably similar-ish age to Lewis, right? Maybe you're a bit younger.
How old's
A
Lewis?
bit younger.
Is he 40, 41?
Yeah, I'm older.
But we talk about, like, how do you retire from this? You know, it's unless you are clearly you've fallen off a cliff, right? This is a pretty fun job. This is a pretty fun job. You get to do some really cool things. It's all you've ever known your whole life. Like, let's say someone suddenly wrote you a check for 100 mil. I could see, like, I would stop working for a considerable amount of time and I'd go and do some fun stuff. But I would probably carry on a bit doing what I do because I enjoy it. But the problem with F1, you can't say I'm going to do 3 races a year. Do you know what I mean? You're either in it or you're not. So it's a big step. Like, would you two just? I mean, you wouldn't give up training, Charlie, if you were suddenly loaded, would you, Matt? I don't know. What would you retire if you suddenly had more money than you knew what to do with, or would you keep your hand in a little bit?
No, I'd retire for sure.
You'd retire. You'd be done.
5 years ago, you wouldn't have asked me that, but for sure, I'd retire and I don't know, I'd whittle with wood or something like that. I don't know what I'd do, but I could see him being like the next Helmut Marko, not in a horrible person like Helmut Marko is. Like I could see him being like an incredible driver development guy down the road. Like he would go and try to kind of change like his route into F1, how it's not like you don't need to be a multimillionaire to get in there. He would try to do it like, who are these kids that have the skill that I can support and bring them in, and try to kind of, diversify the sport in a different way. I think I could see him doing that.
But you also have to think about the like adrenaline that these guys are seeking. That's something too that they're giving up. I mean, you see them now. Lewis is jumping out of airplanes on off weeks, and when they have the summer break, they're on their yachts relaxing every once in a while, but they're also doing that deep sea free diving, and they're all extreme athletes, and they need that rush. So I think, yeah, you have to fill that void if you are going to retire, not only because you love racing, but also that thrill. Like, I think everything else is just boring. Like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, I agree. And the problem is there are other race series you can do that you don't have to do 24, whatever it is, race weekends a year. But you're consciously saying, I'm not going to be part of the best anymore. And that's tough. If you've been effectively bred since you were a kid to be the best, this is it. Or every day you wake up like, how am I going to be the fastest guy in the world? And then you're like, okay, I'm going to step down. It will come, but I can understand the desire to hang on and even if this year's not working out, to be like next year, new series, new cars, like we can still do it. But I agree. I think at this point, it doesn't look likely that it'll win another title. It would be a mega story, but it doesn't look that way. But there were other team order controversy. Williams, who was suddenly at the sharp end, proper. I mean, that was much more needle because I think Lewis and Leclerc were not annoyed at each other. They were annoyed at the team. Whereas Sainz is raging at Albon, which is not something you normally see.
He said he lost all confidence in Williams. Like, that's a big statement.
Especially after their best weekend.
Yeah. They both got the points. It's like...
Did you follow exactly what happened? So effectively, Sainz was ahead and was told Albon wouldn't attack him, and then Albon just dive bombed him. Is that what happened? That's great. I didn't think Albon had that in him. I'm actually quite proud of that. I'm like, yeah, go on, do it.
I like it. I want them to race. I guess if there's a strategy piece at some point, because you can get another position, but let's see it. Go for it.
Yeah, it's nice to see Albon having some spunk to him, though. Like, it's so funny because in the race he does that, and then the post interviews he is smiling and laughing, and like nothing fazed him. But in the race, he's getting a little bit more gritty, and I like it.
I think that's Sainz's frustration too, in that he hasn't been performing as well as everyone thought he would. And this weekend he was up there doing the best he's done, and he's like, "Give me some love here. Give me something. Like, help me out. Let's keep this rolling." And so I think that was just a little of his frustration coming out, that it
Yeah,
hasn't
I like
started
it.
off as the season he hoped.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a fascinating little team dynamic, that one, because Sainz has started to get on top of it and out qualified Albon last race, and Albon clearly was like, okay, well, I cannot allow this to be a pattern, and I'm going to go for it, and even if it causes a little bit of friction, then so be it. And yeah, I think it's good. He's a lovely, lovely guy, but yeah, we like to see that, don't we? We want to see a little bit of animosity between teams. And at the moment, this is what we're looking for in F1, because the McLaren drivers are doing it. Ferrari, there's potential. Williams now. Yuki's just still not there, is he? With Matt, I'd say he's doing a good job. Like, undoubtedly a big upgrade on Lawson, but it just shows how well Max is driving the car.
And again, you see his race pace. It's just not there. Like, the car clearly isn't there, and he's still fighting at the top. He's still putting it on pole. It's just, you think back to Checo and how everyone gave him so much shit for how bad he was doing, and it's just more and more like, no, that's what most really good drivers are going to do in that car.
Yeah,
you have to be the best to really get performance out of it. So,
like, Checo didn't get a seat, and he was probably one of the top 5 drivers last year. And we all were like, get Checo out of this car.
He's gotta
and now
go.
looking back, you're like, shit, you were top 5.
yeah.
But it's got to go. The rookies had a rough race, other than Antonelli. It was Antonelli and Hadjar did great, but everyone else. Hadjar's Lewis Hamilton's favorite driver, he said, which
he's become like a little star, hasn't he? Like, he's got this cheeky look. He's like, looks like he's enjoying himself. He gets a bit irate on the radio sometimes, but that's good because you want to see the character. He's just, and he gets stuck in. He like really, really gets stuck in. I'm into it. I think he's great. He's really cool. So who else had so Doohan looks like it's possibly
Doohan's
over
gone
for him, doesn't he?
all the rumors
coming apart. He's falling
all the rumors
apart.
are he's gone for sure. Alpine has not done an announcement, but like every publication this morning is saying he is for sure out of the car, and Colapinto is in for Imola.
Wow.
I mean, I have to say, it's been frustrating for me because going in, he had the whole world stacked against him, and I actually think he's shown himself to be a really quick driver. He's been close to Gasly, who's quick. He out-qualified him this time, but he just keeps making these little mistakes in the race that take him out, and it's like, oh, it's so frustrating because you can see it just like evaporating in front of his eyes, this opportunity, which is a shame. But I think you're right. I think they're going to bring in Colapinto, aren't they?
Just his like frustration on the radio is, you can tell that it doesn't seem like a good situation there. Like, there's tension already, and he's fiery on the radio from the start, but it just feels like there's tension on that team.
And what's going on with Behrman? He's had flashes of being like an absolute hero, and then he's qualified 20th the last 2 races in the row, and it's just not happening for him. It's weird.
Well, this race, he started 20th at the beginning of the race, and then I swear I wasn't paying attention to the bottom of it, and then all of a sudden I look up and he's in 10th, and I was what the fuck? Like, I think he still has the most overtakes in all the races combined this year, which is impressive. But, his car failed him.
Yeah, he can only do so much in that Haas, but I think he's performing pretty well.
Okay, so he finished 14th basically, but it's just strange because like 1 minute he's flying and like in 7th, and then he qualifies 20th. I don't quite get that, but he's clearly going to be a star, and maybe if Hamilton does throw his toys out the pram, he'll be the next Ferrari driver. I guess we'll have to see. Our P10s didn't go too well, guys, did they?
I was hovering
Close.
around there for a little bit.
Mine was
but no.
So who
Garbage.
did you chose Lawson?
And I'll never do that again, ever. That was a big mistake.
Yeah, Lawson is cursed.
Drives right into Alonso.
Yeah, not good. And then I had Gasly, who was nowhere near. Who did you have? Sainz?
Sainz, right? Yeah, he was a 9th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Close.
Close.
Nearly got
Close.
there. Nearly got there. Okay, so what about where are we going now? I know, Charlie, you've asked a lot of you've asked questions of
Yeah.
our party mode listeners. So what did they come up with? Nothing too taxing, I hope.
Well, you know what? I have a question first. I got to ask this before everyone else because I've been wondering this. With like Lewis and Leclerc with all the dirty air stuff, right? They were both complaining that they were in dirty air, but then in qualifying, we always have people giving someone a tow. I think we've talked about this before, but like Jethro, can you, what is the difference? Is it like 10 meters or is it like, what is it that's differentiating the two?
The truth is, they're probably not that different, except the tow only really works down the straight. So all the car ahead is just punching a hole in the air, which you can then get sucked into. So less air resistance, basically. So that's great in a straight line. But if you have turbulent air coming off the back of a car in corners, effectively the air, all the energy that you would want to extract from that air is already been used up by the car in front of you. And you've, instead of going through nice clean air that works over the surfaces of all your meticulous aero, you've got buffeted, torn up air that's flying off the back in all these swirls and vortexes. And so the aero, as it's designed to work, is obviously in clean air. They can't really design stuff for the randomness of dirty air coming off of another car. So effectively, yeah, a Formula One car uses up this clean air and it sucks all the energy from it and spits it out in all sorts of weird directions, which then upsets the car behind. So I don't know the actual difference, but in a straight line, a hole being punched in the air is great because you can just, there's less air resistance. But when you're going through a corner, you want that air undisturbed so that your wings can use it in the most efficient manner. So it's a complex art. I know they've tried to cure this dirty air thing forever, but I suspect they never will.
Cool. Thanks.
Well, this one is probably another question for you, Jethro, but this comes from Bree Dilly. Can you explain Parc Ferme? It seems like it's both a place and a set of regulations.
I think it is both. Yeah.
Yeah, Parc Ferme, when they talk about it, it effectively means, when they say Parc Ferme conditions, it is a place where the scrutineers can then take the cars into scrutineering and check them. But it's also a concept in that Parc Ferme effectively means you cannot touch the car after that. The specification of the car is absolutely set, so you can't adjust aero, you can't play around with anything. Parc Ferme means the car cannot be touched. And when you go to a racetrack, like again, when I do the sports car racing, when the car's in Parc Ferme conditions and the scrutineers might come and look at it, like the team won't go anywhere near it, because if anyone is seen to be close enough to touch something or affect it, they could get thrown out or disqualified or whatever. So effectively what it means is you cannot alter the car between qualifying and the race. Everything has to stay the same. And there's a period of time, Parc Ferme conditions, when the scrutineers can come and inspect the car and no one from the team can touch the car in that period.
And for a regular F1 weekend, it's you're in Parc Ferme once you start qualifying, right? So the car you enter qualifying with is, you cannot touch it, change it, alter it, make any adjustments.
Yeah, through qualifying, you can probably adjust like a wing. You can do a front turn of wing on or whatever. But once qualifying's finished, you cannot touch it. That's it. That's the car you're going to race.
And there's these scrutineers everywhere. Like when we've been in the pit at a race, there's like scrutineers. You see them everywhere with their big vests and says scrutineer, and everyone's a little afraid of them. And
yeah, and they'll bring the cars in. They'll measure the ride heights. They'll laser scan the cars, all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot going on, which is why you have these weird penalties after the race sometimes, where they find a loophole that's been missed or whatever.
Here's another fun one for all of us from Jordan McNeff. Fact or fiction? Kimi will pass George within 2 years the way Oscar is surpassing Lando.
Yes.
I agree.
I think
I want it to happen, and I think it will happen.
Yeah, I used to always think, and I'm slightly changing my opinion, that when the new kid comes in and he's going to knock the big dog off the perch, he does it immediately. But I think now that F1 has become so complex, there's definitely this learning curve, isn't there? And Oscar's the guy like who's shown it the map, because I thought there's no way he's just not as quick as Lando. He's not going to be. He might be a solid racer, his racecraft's good, but though that raw speed, he doesn't quite have it. But he's learned it over time, and I think it's just how complex the cars are now. But yeah, I agree. I think Kimi is. I think he's going to be something pretty special.
Here's another question from Megan B. Pierce. Can they use the fastest lap at any quali sesh? I have a question based on this too. Why do they reset every quali session? I always wondered that. Like, why don't they keep those times on the board?
So if you set the best time, like the lap
in
Q1, then it holds up and people have to keep trying to do it, and you could sit in the garage until someone beats it.
And you still cut the bottom 5, and then the next 15 get a chance to beat that, but they just wouldn't clear the board.
I think my guess would be Jeopardy. Like, they want every session to be its own thing that has risk and reward, for sure. The other thing is, this is a sport that's about entertainment, like any sport. And if you had, let's say, Oscar, Lando, and Max went out in Q1 and set a time that no one's beating for Q2, they're just going to sit in the garage. So there's less cars on the track, there's less action, there's less jeopardy, there's less chance of someone being caught out by a crash and a yellow flag. It's really just to keep the spectacle going, I think. And I think it's cool as well, because it makes the drivers work over and over again, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and we get the kind of the end of each session excitement where everyone gets that one final go. And so, yeah, I guess if we can get that 3 times versus just one is ideal for.
It's just a better system. They've messed around with qualifying so much over the years. It used to just be an hour-long session. You could go out and just lap as many times as you like, which sounds fun, but actually basically hardly anyone went out until the last 10 minutes anyway. So it was 45 minutes.
They do that, I think,
TV.
in NASCAR, right? Is that what they do in NASCAR?
Oh, do they?
I think, or they used to, I think.
But it just doesn't work, because you end up with 45 minutes TV when everyone's sat in the garage waiting for the last 10 or 15 minutes. They did one shot qualifying, which was quite cool for a little while, where they all went out in order. Like, they picked a lot out of and it was a random assignment effectively. And then you just got one lap. So they all went out one at a time and set a lap. So that created action, which was actually quite cool. But again, the problem was, like, let's say, I don't know, Lando picked number 1 and went out and set his lap time, and Max picked number 20 and set his, there's a lot of stuff in the middle where there's not actually that much chance of them knocking the guy off. And there was also the factor that the track gets quicker, so the guys who drew the further lot got more chance. But I actually quite enjoyed it. It was quite a cool thing. It felt quite gladiatorial,
Yeah, I like that. The last, it's not really a question, but I got a lot of comments that probably segue into some pulp from Matt. But what about the Lego cars and the driver parade? Everyone is asking about those. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yep. I think it was cool. So I got some facts about the Lego cars. Let's just throw them out right now. They took 8 months to build, 22,000 hours of build time. They used 400,000 Lego bricks each, or maybe together. I don't know. It didn't really specify. And
Probably
it
each.
needed, and there was a team of 26 Lego engineers building these.
And then they drove into each other. That's all they did, was try and crash into each other and break them.
One of them said, like, oh yeah, they need to do a track cleanup because there's Legos everywhere from colliding. And I was like, can you imagine if that was enough to puncture a tire, one of these tiny Legos? Because Matt, you probably haven't done it yet, but Jethro, you might have. Just stepping on a Lego in the middle of the night on the floor.
It's my life.
I feel like it could puncture a tire.
Yeah, my oldest son, Rocco, absolutely loved Lego. Like, you'd go in his room and you couldn't make out the color of the carpet because there was so much Lego on the floor. So I spent several years just literally standing on Lego constantly. He still loves it. He's 17 now and he still builds Lego. He loves it. And he's it's mega. I think it's really cool, and that was fun. And I saw Sky Sports F1 actually did like a breakdown of the race. They were like commenting on who was cutting corners and crashing into each other. It's pretty cool on Sky.
Anytime it looks like those drivers are having like a genuinely good time, I like it. Like so many of those driver parades, they're just up there. It's pageantry. They're waving, they're doing whatever. But it seemed like they were all having a really fun time. Like they enjoyed that, which is cool to see.
I thought that was good. What I didn't like was the weird driving on a trailer interviewing the top three.
That was so
race.
weird.
What was that all about?
And Lando was like, "No, I'll stand." It was just weird.
He
was awkward.
He was a little bitter. He was a little bitter after that race. But yeah, I didn't like that. It reminded me of in Vegas when they all pile into one of those
the Rolls Royce,
a Rolls Royce or something. It's all of them in the back seat and they're squished in there. Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
It was very strange. And it was also in the interviews at the press conference after. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about it, but Russell didn't show up. They said he would show up late, and then he never showed up because he was in the medical tent. So
yeah, I think he had some sort of stomach issues. I think he.
So he should have shit himself in the car.
It's possibly shit himself. Yeah, it's hard to know. He was ruining those pink overalls this week. He wanted those black ones back.
Yeah, he didn't want to risk having to wear those again.
No. Oh God.
Matt, do we have any more pulp?
Yeah, we didn't cover the fact that Max had his first daughter 2 days before race, like on Thursday, and then in Monaco, hopped on a flight and came. And I was just thinking about that, like, could I have done something that was the most important thing to me a day after my daughter was born? I don't think I could. I don't know. How were you in the mind?
What if someone was paying you $100 million?
But okay, because I don't have $100 million. That's different. But when you have $100 million, it's interesting. But obviously he's gonna go to it. But then to be in the mind frame of like, I'm assuming her birth, everything went well. But like, if there was any reason he still had to stay there, like then any complications, like maybe he was never going to miss it or whatever, but I don't know. It was impressive. He had a little daughter, Lily, and then it was really great in qualifying. Martin Brundle, I think it was, after he got the qualifying, got pole, he said that Max is still the daddy here once again. It's just all the shit he says is just gold. Always. There's no one greater. No filter. But like impressive. And honestly, he doesn't care about press. He doesn't care about anything. He was asked, I think in the post qualifying interview, he was asked like congratulate about his daughter. Then when he commented on it, he passed right over it and didn't even comment on it. And he was just like, that's a separate entity, which it is. But it's just interesting being a dad. It's just like any opportunity I can to talk about my daughter, I'm going to. It's just, I would just start gushing about it.
Yeah, I guess he just got that compartmentalizing thing, you know. He just that's a different, some divide comes down in his brain and it's a different thing altogether.
And I think like if any girl is going to own F1 and be a world champion, this girl Lily, she has the bloodline for it. Like there is like everyone around, she's got the money behind her. Every company would invest in her. I wonder if this is the possibility that we have to see the first legendary female driver in F1.
But here's my but. Is Max, the way he grew up, I think he appreciates what Jos did for him and how it's molded him into this absolute machine. But there's one thing appreciating, yeah, I went through those tough times and he treated me that way because I've got here. It's another thing to then turn around to your new child and go, I'm going to subject them to the same level of like just intense single-minded development to hit this one goal. And that would be interesting. I don't know.
The good thing is we'll find out in like a couple of years because they start karting at 3 years old. So it's not like we have to wait 18. We'll find out in a couple of years.
I don't know. Tiger seems to be doing it with his kid, so it's there. Tiger went through that same kind of thing, and now his son is killing it. So we'll see. I think next time you see Jensen Button, you have to ask him. Maybe we're not allowed to talk about it. Ask him off the record. We need to know the Danica situation. There was so many memes of just him being like, she would just be talking, and it's just like this, like, ferocious hate that is happening. And I don't know if they're just like, that's his face when he's not being asked a question or what it is, but it just seems vicious.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable to watch. I don't like it. I don't like it.
It is deeply uncomfortable. And I know he wouldn't do this, but my wife cracked me up because she was like, and I know Jensen wouldn't do this, but she was like, do you think they're just having like really angry sex?
I thought that. I said, I was thinking I was going to ask that same thing. I was like, do you think they fucked? Maybe a while ago when it was crazy and they're like, we should never do that. Like, this was bad. And now it's just really weird between them.
Jensen is a happily married man, and I know he wouldn't do that, but it just cracked me up. And I could see the logic. I was like, yeah, no, I get it. I get where she's coming from with that comment.
You never know.
She's just, yeah. I mean, she's ripped. Jesus. She'd beat him in an arm wrestle, I think. I mean, Jensen's a fit dude, but my God, she's got the guns. Insane. It looks like you've been training her, Charlie.
I wish.
We also have Lewis is co-chairing the Met Gala tonight. So big night for him. So wonder what he's going to be wearing. Something baggy and big, I'm sure. It's going to be quite wonderful to see.
What is the Met Gala? I see a load of wacky outfits, but I don't really know what it is other than it's that thing where people wear stupid clothes. Matt, you're in this world. What does it mean?
It's the first Monday in May, and it's kind of like if you're the person of the moment, you get invited. So like there's certain huge celebrities that kind of always get the invite, but it changes every year. It's kind of the hardest invite to get in Hollywood or kind of just in entertainment worldwide. It's like each designer basically buys a table and they invite certain people, and they're just kind of inviting all the top people of the moment now.
And what happens?
And there's a theme.
What actually happens? Is there an
They
award ceremony? Is it
No,
like a show?
it's-
What, is it
they
just a
go
meal
and
and a kiss up?
they go and there's like kind of like outfits on display, and there's a different theme every year, and they go up the stairs and they do all this interviewing, and then they go inside, and a lot of what happens inside is not known because I think no photos allowed inside. It's very like the photos that come out are very curated, and I'm sure some wild shit happens. You know what I mean? I've heard some kind of wild stories, but yeah, it's just like a to-do night. It's like, kind of Anna Wintour is like the person of it all, and then has some co-chairs every year, and then yeah, just like a big thing.
Sounds weird. I'm getting Diddy vibes from it.
It's crazy. I did it I did it a few years ago, and I did a client's hair for it, and I was in New York, and it was raining, and it was just insanity. Everywhere was insane. It was like people all over. It was raining. It was crowds. Everyone was like swarming people. It's a very weird energy. I don't love New York, and then to be in the middle of that is just, to me, it's too stressful. So, here I am with you guys instead. We also have a guy, I don't know who this guy is, but there was an interview of a guy that is a Formula E driver, Dan Ticktum. And he said that at least 8 drivers do not deserve to be in F1. That's a lot. That's a lot of drivers. So he thinks that there's 8 better drivers. I'm sure he thinks one of them is him, because why else would you make that statement? And we all know that happens, but pretty bold statement to say when you probably want to be in F1. You're not making
Where was this interview?
I think it was this weekend.
But it was on like the TV coverage, was it?
Yeah, I just saw it. It was in a TikTok and it was in an interview, and I was like, oh.
You should look up his radio messages to his,
because he's very hated, right? Like he said, people are going to hate me more. Like he's not liked by the sounds of it.
If you think like Yuki or Hajar get mad on the radio, like this guy, he is like he rages at them. He will be swearing, calling them every name under the sun. There's a famous one. You'll find it on Instagram where he's literally like screaming at the team like, this is a joke, we're a joke, fucking outrageous. He's like, if if he says, I assume he's talking to his manager, he's like, if you're on here, book me a cab as soon as I finish. I want to get in the car and go to the airport. This is outrageous. You guys are useless. Like he is, yeah, he's a character for sure.
Is he a good
yeah,
driver?
I don't know enough about Formula E because it's the most boring thing in the world to me.
It's terrible.
I believe he's a good driver, and all the guys in that are very, very high level drivers. So I'm sure he's a good driver. But everyone says F1's pretty. There's this narrative, and it used to be true. There were pay drivers that if you bring enough money with you, you can get in. But I don't believe that anymore. The standards are so high, you get found out. So who would you drop off? I'm looking at the list now of who is not. You could argue Stroll, but I think he's actually. I know we laugh about it, but he's a good driver,
better than Alonso this year. So
yeah, like okay, so let's say you could potentially drop Stroll. The grid is strong now. It's not like it used to be where there were like half a dozen people who just were there for the money. I think it's just not like that anymore.
Well, you could get rid of Doohan and Lawson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you know, you replace them with really, again, high level drivers from, let's say, sports car racing or whatever. And we saw it with Nick De Vries. He's a great driver. He's like Formula E champion. He's does fantastically in sports cars. He got dropped in and he struggled. He like really, really struggled. So I think all drivers is in their genetic makeup to think they're better than the next guy. But I don't think it's easy jumping into an F1 car these days and being bang on the pace. So yeah, Dan Ticktum is worth looking up just to listen to some of his radio messages. I would encourage you to do that.
I'm gonna have to, and maybe we'll end on this one because every driver was asked this. It's like the number one thing on the internet. I feel one silverback gorilla versus 100 men. Who do you think wins?
100 men.
Yeah, I agree.
You do. They're pretty tough.
They're super tough, but you can organize 100 people and come up with a strategy, and you sacrifice a few. I don't know. I'm going 100.
I think. What wave are you on? That's the more important question. Like, if you're one of those 100 men, what wave do you take? What's your strategy? I think back.
I started off 100 men for sure would lose. I was like, a silverback girl is going to just kill the first 20, maim the next 60, and then definitely defend the next ones. And then there was actually a UFC fighter that was weighed in on it, and he was like, if you've sparred before and done 3 minutes of hard sparring, you're exhausted after it. A silverback gorilla is big, but after the first 5 people, he's going to kill them all, but he's going to be really exhausted. Then maybe the next wave of 20 just needs to get on top of him and start gouging his eyes out and doing this. And then it starts to kind of go downhill from there. And that made sense. And then a lot of primate experts and like zoologists got in and they're like, yeah, it's going to tear the limbs off the first few. But by the time you get to like 40, 50, 60, the gorilla's going to be exhausted.
Yeah, I'm going 100 men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't want to be one of them, but
yeah, I don't want to be one of them. I agree, but as long as they're organized, I think you're right, Charlie, because you've got to be on him like 10 or 20 at a time. Because if there's any like separation between you, he's going to just tear you to pieces. Silverbacks are badass, but we shouldn't kill any more of them. Let's be honest. We've almost made them extinct.
We don't want to kill any.
Let's try not to kill any more.
No.
Okay, guys. Well, I guess that's about it. There's no Grand Prix next week. We have what's next? Imola. In 2 weeks, which I've recently been to, so we can talk about that next week. I'm going to Spa this weekend for World Endurance Championship. I've just come back from the Nürburgring. I have some.
We didn't even talk about that. How should we save that for next week?
Yeah, let's save it for next
Okay.
week. I have some man crush advice that I need for next week as well. So there's a lot to talk about in our week off. But at the moment, we're going to say, well, this is where Dax says push, 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 push. We don't have something to say, but we will be back next week to preview Italy and discuss all sorts of random stuff, maybe not silverbacks. So we will speak to you then.
And we're gonna get Jethro to hit the gritty next week. So stay tuned.
See you guys.